In the summer of 1991, Shanda Sharer, an outgoing, smart, and studious 12-year-old student, attended Hazelwood Middle School in New Albany, Indiana. She was, by all accounts, a normal girl who made friends with everyone and had lots of fun at school dances. But it was one such dance that set in motion a chain of events that would soon bring Shanda Sharer's life to something so terrible no one would have ever imagined. I am Parth Sathe, your host, and welcome to Ringing Bells podcast with a second episode, An Ordinary Teenager. In today's episode, we will uncover the life of an ordinary teenager and how jealousy can change someone so much that they could take a step so evil no one would have ever imagined. Listeners are advised that this episode contains graphic descriptions and details of gore and death. Thus, viewer discretion is advised. Shanda Sharer met classmate Amanda Hevron at Hazelwood in 1991. Soon after moving to this area with a recently divorced mother from Kentucky, Sharer and Hevron became fast friends and then, soon after, romantic partners. In October of that year, the pair attended a school dance together. There, Sharer and Hevron were confronted by 16-year-old Melinda Lovelace, who had previously been dating Hevron for more than a year and was now extremely jealous of this new pairing. Lovelace then threatened Sharer in public and soon even talked about killing the 12-year-old. At this point, Sharer's mother transferred her to Our Lady of Perpetual Help Catholic School to protect her. But unfortunately, that did nothing to stop the horrific events. On the cold winter night of Jan 10, 1992, Lovelace enlisted three friends, Laurie Tuckett, Hope Rippey, and Tony Lawrence, to help her take revenge on Shanda Sharer. The foursome drove to where Sharer was spending her weekend with her father. The girls used the pretense that they were taking Sharer to see Hevron as the excuse for the visit. Sharer told the girls to return after her parents were asleep, which they did. The girls then took Sharer into the car and told her they were going to drive her to the meeting place at the Witch Castle, an isolated and abandoned house that served as a local teen hangout. In the back seat, Melinda Lovelace was hiding under a blanket with a knife. The ringleader and jealous lover soon leapt out from under the blanket and threatened to slit Sharer's throat if she didn't confess to stealing Hevron away from her. Tears and fearful for her life, Sharer tried to respond but to no avail. Lovelace then convinced the other girls to take Sharer to a remote location where there would be no one else around for miles. The three other girls assumed Lovelace was simply going to scare Sharer into breaking up with Hevron, but they were dead wrong. For 7 hours, the four girls brutally tortured Shanda Sharer before ultimately killing her. First, they took Sharer to a remote trash dump near a logging road in a densely forested area. Lovelace and Tackett stripped off Sharer's clothes and proceeded to punch her repeatedly. Lovelace hit the victim's face with her knee until she bled profusely from her mouth. Meanwhile, Lawrence and Rippy stayed behind in Tackett's car. That torture wasn't enough to satiate the older girls. They then tried to slit Sherry's throat, but the knife was too dull. Instead, they stabbed her in the chest and strangled her with a rope before throwing her in the trunk of the car. Thinking she was dead, they then went to Tackett's house to clean up and drink sodas before realizing that the victim, now screaming in the trunk. Tackett proceeded to stab Sharir several more times before driving off once more with Lovelace to beat and sodomize Sharir with a tire iron. When they returned to Tackett's house, she laughingly described what had just happened to Rippy. Finally, in the early morning hours, the torturers stopped at a gas station and bought a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi, which they then quickly emptied and refilled with gasoline. Again, driving to a remote location, the girls hauled their still-alive victim, now only able to whimper, "Mommy," out of the trunk, wrapped her in a blanket and poured the gasoline on her. Then they lit Shanda Sharer on fire and drove off. Just to be sure their work was finished, Lovelace had them return a few minutes later to pour more gasoline on her, watch her writhe in agony, and finally confirm that she was dead. As the 4 girls ate breakfast at McDonald's just after the killing, the 4 girls laughed as they compared their sausages to Shanda Sharer's burnt corpse. Later that morning, 2 hunters found the body. That same day, the girls started talking. Lovelace told Hebron and another friend the whole story, but had them promise to keep their mouths shut. But that night, Lawrence and Rippy went straight to Jefferson County Sheriff's Office with their parents and spilled the whole story. By the next day, all 4 girls were in custody. All 4 girls were tried as adults and accepted plea bargains to avoid the death penalty. Lawrence and Rippy, younger, less involved in the torture, and more forthcoming with the authorities, received lighter sentences, with Lawrence getting 20 years and Rippy getting 50 years. The former was released in 2000 after serving 9 years, while the latter served 14 and got out in 2006. Meanwhile, Tackett and Lovelace both received 60-year sentences. Lovelace, the one angry with Sharer and the ringleader behind the murder, naturally received a longer sentence than the 2 younger girls. My personal thinking is Lovelace is in her name. This ends with our second episode with a true crime solved case. If you like to listen to this kind of true crime stories about solved, unsolved mysteries and crimes, make sure to follow and subscribe to our podcast and to listen and not miss any of our weekly episodes. Until then, goodbye.